$6,000. That's what a sludged engine costs to repair or replace. And the drivers who end up with that bill aren't the ones who skipped oil changes. They're the ones who changed it religiously, just always cold, always wrong. One step, 20 minutes, free, and it's the only thing standing between a clean engine and one that's slowly choking on its own residue. I've pulled apart enough high-mileage engines to tell you exactly what the inside of one looks like when the owner did everything right, on paper, changed the oil every 5,000 miles without fail, used decent oil, kept receipts, and by 90,000 miles, the cam journals were coated in dark varnish, the oil passages were narrowed by sludge, and the intake ports had a layer of baked-on carbon that no flush was going to undo without serious work. The engine didn't fail because the oil wasn't changed. It failed because the oil was never fully removed. Here's what I mean by that. When your car sits overnight, or sits in the garage on a Saturday morning while you're getting your tools together, the oil inside that engine cools down, and as it cools, it thickens. The combustion byproducts, the carbon particles, the fuel dilution residue, the moisture from short trips, all of it that was suspended in the oil while the engine was running, slowly settles. By morning, the clean oil is sitting on top. The heavy contamination is at the bottom, stuck to the walls of the oil pan, the lower end of the block, the crankshaft journals. When you drain cold oil, you're draining the top layer, the cleaner part. The contamination stays exactly where it settled, coating the metal surfaces you just put fresh oil on top of. Think of it like washing a cast iron skillet with cold water. The grease doesn't move. You can pour fresh soap over it all you want, but if the pan's cold, the residue just sits there. Heat the pan first, and the same grease slides right off the surface. Your engine works the same way. The oil is the solvent. Temperature is the activation key. The step nobody talks about is this. 2 days before your oil change, take your car on the highway and drive it hard for 15 to 20 minutes. Sustained RPMs above 3,000. Get the engine genuinely hot, not just warmed up to operating temperature, but hot. Hold it there. Then come home and drain the oil while it's still warm. That's it. That's the step. And everything changes when you do it. Now, before I tell you exactly what you'll see the first time you do this right, and what it tells you about the state of your engine, I want to address something I'll come back to at the end of this video. Because some of you are watching this and already thinking, what if the damage is already done? What if there's already sludge in there? There's a specific procedure for that. It costs about $40, and it works better than anything a shop is going to charge you $200 to do. We'll get there. Drop a comment and tell me what you're driving and how many miles, and whether you've ever changed your oil straight out of a cold garage. I know the answer for most of you. Subscribe to the channel if this is your kind of content. No filler, no basics, no check your oil every 3,000 miles advice. We go deeper than that here. Let me show you exactly what happens the first time you do this the right way. You run the car hard for 20 minutes, highway, sustained RPMs, engine fully up to temperature. You pull into the driveway. You put it on the ramps while the engine's still hot. You pull the drain plug, and the oil that comes out is different. It's thin, it flows fast, it's dark, darker than what you're used to seeing, and it keeps coming for longer than you'd expect. That darkness is the contaminants that were suspended in the hot oil. The sludge that would have settled overnight if you'd waited until morning. The carbon residue from combustion. The fuel dilution from cold starts. All of it is in that drain pan instead of coating the inside of your engine. The first time most guys do this, they're surprised by how much comes out and how long it takes. After years of cold drains, the oil pan has a layer of residue sitting in it that finally gets picked up and carried out when the oil is hot enough to move it. That's what you want. That's the whole point. Now let me tell you about a rideshare driver I know who ran a 2018 Toyota Camry as his primary work vehicle. This man was diligent. Changed his oil every 5,000 miles from day one. Never late. Always used decent conventional oil. By the time the car hit 87,000 miles, the engine started making a faint ticking on cold starts, the kind of noise that takes about 30 seconds to disappear after startup. He brought it in thinking it was a valve adjustment issue. I pulled the valve cover. The cam journals had a layer of dark varnish on them. The oil passages feeding the camshaft were partially restricted. The engine wasn't starved for oil, it had oil. But the oil wasn't getting everywhere it needed to go fast enough on cold startup because the passages had been slowly narrowing for years. He'd never once warmed the engine before draining it. Every oil change he did removed the relatively clean oil that had been circulating at the top of the system. The heavy contamination stayed low, baked onto the oil pan, caught in the passages, recycled into the next batch of fresh oil within the first few miles. The fix wasn't cheap. Not catastrophic, but not cheap. And every bit of it was preventable. Now here's where some guys push back on me. They say, the owner's manual doesn't say anything about warming the engine before the oil change. And they're right, it doesn't. The manual assumes you're following the service interval, which which is designed to account for some contamination buildup. What the manual doesn't account for is decades of identical behavior producing cumulative damage that stays inside the engine through every single oil change. The manual is written for minimum compliance. We're talking about maximum protection. One important exception before we move on. If your engine has an active oil leak, even a small one, do not run it hard before the drain. Hot oil under pressure finds every gap faster than cold oil does. If you've got a weeping valve cover gasket or a small rear main seal seep, run the engine at normal operating temperature and drain it warm, not hot. The difference matters. Also, if you're running a turbocharged engine, after the hot highway run, let the car idle for 2 to 3 minutes before you shut it off. The turbo bearings are still spinning and still hot. Give the oil pump time to carry heat away from the bearing journal before the flow stops. Then drain. This protects the turbo from the heat soak that kills turbos on engines that get shut off immediately after hard driving. The F-150 I mentioned, but the 2017 with the 5.0 VOR owner started doing the pre-drain warm-up at 60,000 miles, switched to full synthetic at the same time. At a 112,000, I got in there for a timing chain inspection. Something I do on high-mileage V8s is preventive work. The inside of that engine looked like it had 40,000 miles on it. Cam lobes were clean. Journals were clean. Oil passages were open. The timing chain guides had zero abnormal wear. He'd changed nothing else in his maintenance routine except warming the engine before every drain. That's 50,000 miles of evidence. There's one more thing I need to cover, and it's the question most of you probably already have in your head right now. What if the damage is already done? What if you've been doing cold drains for 80,000 miles and there's already sludge in there? Do you just keep doing the warm-up going forward and hope for the best? No. There's a specific procedure. It costs about $40, and I'll walk you through it exactly in a minute. Here's the procedure. And pay attention, because most people get this wrong even when they know it exists. If you've been running cold drains for years and you suspect there's sludge in your engine, do not switch directly to expensive full synthetic oil and expect it to clean things up. That's actually one of the worst things you can do. High-quality synthetic oil has strong detergent additives that are designed to keep a clean engine clean, not to strip years of baked-on varnish off your cam journals all at once. When synthetic oil is introduced into a heavily contaminated engine, it does what it's designed to do. It starts dissolving deposits. Then those dissolved deposits clog your oil pickup screen. That's how a maintenance oil change turns into a spun bearing at 95,000 miles. The right way to clean a sludged engine costs about $40 and 2 oil changes. Buy the cheapest conventional oil your engine takes, not synthetic. Not semi-synthetic, cheap conventional. Fill the engine. Take it out for 15 minutes of highway driving. Same procedure we talked about. Come home and drain it immediately while hot. Refill with cheap conventional again. Drive normally for 2 weeks. No more than 1,000 to 1,500 miles. Drain hot again. Now switch to your synthetic. What happened? The first hot conventional flush suspended and removed the top layer of contamination. The second short interval flush picked up what the first one missed and what the detergents had started breaking loose from the walls. By the time the synthetic goes in, the engine is clean enough for it to maintain rather than excavate. You gave it a fighting chance. I've seen this work on engines that look done. A 2006 Honda Accord V6, one of the notoriously sludge-prone engines from that era, came in looking like someone had poured tar in the valve train. The owner had skipped oil changes for a while, then switched to full synthetic thinking it would clean it up. The pickup screen was 60% blocked. The engine was on borrowed time. 2 flush cycles with hot conventional oil. Full synthetic on the third change. That engine ran another 70,000 miles without issue. $40 in cheap oil. That's the gap between a $6,000 engine replacement and another 70,000 miles. Now, here's the thing I want to leave you with, because it matters beyond the procedure itself. Car maintenance in this country has been reduced to a single number. The oil change interval. 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 7,500 miles, whatever the sticker on your windshield says. And for the shops that put that sticker there, that number is the whole conversation. You come in, you pay. They drain. They fill, you leave. Nobody asks whether the oil was hot. Nobody asks what your driving cycle looks like. Nobody checks the dipstick tube for sludge before pouring in $80 worth of synthetic. They're not paid to protect your engine. They're paid to change your oil. The 20-minute warm-up costs you nothing except time. Done before every single drain, it fundamentally changes what happens inside your engine over 100,000 miles. Not dramatically, not overnight, but the way real protection works, quietly, consistently, and invisibly until the day you pull the valve cover and realize it still looks like new. That's the kind of maintenance this channel is built around. Not the minimum, not the schedule, the right way. If you want more of this, practical, technical, no nonsense, subscribe. We cover the things the Quick Lube shop will never put on your service receipt. See you on the next one.